Welcome to Business Spotlight on WPSE Money Radio. Business Spotlight is heard weekly at this time on 1450 AM and 107.1 FM. Today's guest is Gretchen Seth of Logistics Plus. Tell us about your responsibilities at Logistics Plus.
Yes, my title is Senior Vice President of International, but that's actually a little bit misleading because I do business development for the company and my work encompasses both domestic and international. I started in July of 1997, which was 11 months after the founding of the company. We started very small. We started out in service to GE Transportation. We had a one-year contract for 2 people. And so we were actually on site inside the GE Transportation headquarters here in Erie. And we were tasked with managing their inbound less than truckload because GE paid the carriers for that service and they negotiated rates with a number of different carriers. So they had preferred rates with a number of less than truckload carriers. The suppliers, instead of using the GE carriers, were using their own preferred carriers. And therefore, they were costing GE a lot of money. And so we were brought in to take control of that process and take cost out. And within the first 7 months, we had saved GE over $600,000. And so then they said to us, hey, what else can you do? So we got into inbound truckload and then eventually into international business, starting with Mexico, which is where I began my career here. I have a background in logistics management and in Spanish. And I often joke that I'm the only person in the tri-state area with that skill set. So I was destined to be hired for Logistics Plus. But I started out managing the Mexico logistics office. We had one supplier on board at the time that I started interviewing. By the time I was hired, there were probably a dozen. And within a month after I began, we had 27 suppliers south of the border. And my job was to manage all of the documentation and the shipping for any shipments coming across the border at Laredo and eventually up to Erie or Grove City.
Could you ever have foreseen, when you started, that sort of growth from an international standpoint?
No, because in my first 3 weeks at GE, it was very quiet because the suppliers hadn't started shipping yet. And I actually went to Jim about 3 weeks in, and I said, look, do you want to lay me off? Because there's nothing going on. I had set up all my templates for my documentation. I had all the contact names for all the vendors. I was ready to go, but there was nothing going on. And he sort of smiled and he said, just wait, it'll come. And within probably 3 months after that, I was looking for help. It just got that crazy. And just as an aside, at that time, GE was paying us for about a half a dozen people, and I needed help, and Jim laughed at me and said, GE's not going to pay us for another person. So figure it out. So what I did was I went back to my alma mater, which was Gannon University, and I talked to my former mentor there, and I said, look, I need an intern. We can't pay them, but we can promise them a wealth of experience that they can take into their career. And so they found me a lovely young lady. We hired her mid-year, and she worked with us until graduation as an intern, and then we immediately hired her. Because by that time, GE could see that, yes, we did actually need help. And so that was really the beginning of our internship program. And from there, we went to what was Erie Business Center, and we went to Mercyhurst and Barron and Edinburgh. And we now, I believe, have interns from all of the local universities, which has been a wonderful thing for us and for them.
Can you walk us through the growth when it comes to the international markets and where you foresee it going?
Our growth since the beginning has really been exponential because we started out with one client, and that client was GE, and they were our sole client for 3 years. At that point, there were probably 20 people in the company, and I like to say that nobody was sleeping through the night because we had one client who was very fickle, and GE in particular has a lot of changing roles of their people. And so we were afraid that eventually perhaps someone would come in who would question our existence there, and then we would be done. So we ended up putting out our shingle, and we immediately got 2 other local businesses on board, and then from there it grew. But when I say our growth has been exponential, we've worked with suppliers and customers of all of our customers. And so when we were involved in the supply chain management, we had visibility to all of the vendors and all of the customers, and so it became an automatic prospect list for us. Much of our early growth we absolutely do dedicate to GE Transportation, because when they established a sourcing office in Mexico, that was when I came in. They established another sourcing office in Prague, in the Czech Republic, and they took us with them. We had a Logistics Plus resource that was sitting in the GE office to work with the suppliers and help them to know things like where Erie, Pennsylvania was. What was the lead time in getting things to Erie, Pennsylvania? How should they package their products so that it would survive ocean transit? What kind of documentation did they need for the importation into the U.S.? These were all things that were largely unknown to that supplier base. So we came in with the GE people, the GE sourcing and purchasing people, and worked with the suppliers. And then eventually we would say to the suppliers, we're helping you with all this GE freight. Do you have any other customers in the U.S.? Maybe we could help you in that regard. And so our business grew from there. From Eastern Europe, we went to Asia and established offices in Shanghai and in Jakarta, Indonesia. And that was really the beginning of our international growth. We now have offices in somewhere upwards of 20 countries, probably about 500 employees overall from the original 2. At Logistics Plus, there is no plan because it's all planned. We respond to our customers' changing needs. And so that takes us in directions that we wouldn't have anticipated. For example, the growth in e-commerce. That has resulted in a need for very small retailers, sometimes people working out of their garage, to develop warehousing space, to work with somebody who can pick, pack, and ship their products to the consumers. We have always done warehousing, but this is a very specialized type of warehousing, which is very hands-on, a lot of in and out, not long-term storage. You know, you get the goods coming in from the manufacturer and then almost immediately you're shipping out. So we've developed, and it's called fulfillment services. We've developed that in several of our warehouses throughout the U.S., and we are actually, late last year, we were designated a preferred provider to Amazon. So Amazon retailers are coming to us in droves asking for our help. And that was a product that we never thought about offering until our clients came to us and said, we need it. And that's been the basis of a lot of our growth, especially in the last 10 years, is just listening to the customers and their changing needs. Some of the needs are the same regardless of who you are. Our customers want control of their freight, and they want visibility to their freight. Many times they are not equipped to gather their own data. So they rely on us, by being their logistics provider, to collect all the data around their logistics, you know, where things are coming from, where they're going, how much they cost, what markets are busier, what markets are more expensive. We collect all that data largely through our own homegrown software and provide it back to the clients. And this is something that is a value add that people don't think of necessarily when they first start thinking about logistics, but it really is something that is a value add to give someone visibility to what they're doing, where their logistics dollars are going. And as kind of an offshoot to that, we also do a lot of logistics analysis. As a 4PL, we connect the links in the supply chain for our customers. And so we are always looking for ways to enhance what they're doing. If we see that they are spending an inordinate amount of money in a certain lane or in a certain mode, we will look at that and find ways to optimize it, to save money. We did that with GE initially with their inbound less than truckload. We do that as a rule with all of our 4PL clients. We look at what they're doing and suggest ways that they can be doing things better. And it really leads to our continued survival with them, because if we can, at the end of every year, present a report that says, look, this is how much we saved you this year, and they look at how much they spent on us versus how much they've saved, and I can say that in many cases we have saved them more than we have cost them.
Can you explain the term 4PL?
Yes, I can. You know, there's a lot of controversy over the exact definition, but I would say our definition would be that we are integrators of capabilities, resources, and technology to connect all the links in the supply chain from manufacturer to customer, and including all the steps in the process from shipment documentation to transportation to customs clearance and delivery. So it's essentially what we call cradle to grave or door to door service. We are strategically involved with our clients. We like to say we become part of their logistics team. Years back, the term was embedded. We like to be embedded. We want to be on site. And many of our employees are actually on site at the customer's facilities, but we don't need to be. We have several contracts where the logistics routing center is here at Union Station, but our client might be in Texas or Louisiana or overseas.
You yourself have been responsible for a lot of the client 4PL development, like WeWork and Google. That's an enormous accomplishment.
It is an incredible accomplishment, and I'm so proud of our team for what we've accomplished. This is not something that's accomplished by one or two people. This is hundreds of people all over the world who are working together. I mentioned we have offices in 20 countries. We also have partners in countries where we don't have our own offices. We have trusted partners. We can't know everything about everywhere, but we have a network that allows us to be able to answer any question in 24 hours or less. And so when it comes to the big guns like WeWork and Google, because they have a global presence, we need to have a global presence. And we've just been very fortunate that we have come to them at a time when they've had a need. We've been able to fill the need immediately. In the case of Google, we started that relationship in October of last year. They asked us to do something that they called a proof of concept. They gave us a trial period of 4 months. And our initial assignment was to monitor full truckloads moving from their distributors to the large retailers. And the problem is that trial started in October, which is like the busiest period in retail. From Black Friday to Christmas is a nightmare. And that was when they chose to test us. And I must say the team has done a phenomenal job. We came through and delivered far more than Google expected us to. And a lot of that was due to not just following their instructions, but looking at the process and saying, I know you're asking us to do this, but this is another way that we could do it that might save time, might save money, might save heartache. And they did listen to some of our suggestions. So we were able to streamline several of the processes in working with their distribution warehouses, working with the retailers. The Google stuff is very time sensitive and it's very high value. And so this was kind of a do or die situation for us. We couldn't fail, and we knew that. So we managed to move 3.5 million Google Home products, the Google Home Max, the Mini, between Black Friday and the end of the year, 3.5 million. That doesn't include the Google phones, the Google phone accessories, the Google Chromecast. We surprised ourselves, I think, a little bit. I shouldn't say that because that sounds like we didn't have faith in ourselves. But, this was really a daunting effort. And it was accomplished by a team of 5 people. And it's just such a joy to watch that happen. And just recently, we were awarded a multi-year contract with Google. And they have added to our staff both here and overseas. And so I see this relationship taking off in a big way because Google is always going to have needs, and we are always going to be able to find creative solutions for them.
Logistics Plus has an incredible ability to adapt to customers' needs.
We are very flexible, and that's the word that we use. We're very flexible. We don't have a canned system that we offer to clients, because really no two clients are alike. And we work with clients across a number of different industries, businesses. We've got aerospace, we've got heavy industry, we have apparel, wind energy, solar energy, and no two of those clients are alike. Even within the same industry, no two of our apparel clients are the same. So we're always looking at, okay, what is your current state? And how can we improve on that? And we're not here to say to you, all right, here's our ideas, take everything you're doing and throw it out because we've got a better way. We come in and we look at what they're doing. And if they have a particular carrier, particular relationship that they want to keep, we do everything we can to try to keep it. We always offer alternatives if we feel that maybe it's not the most cost-effective partner, for example. But in the end, it's all about the relationships. And if they have a relationship with the carrier and they want to keep it, then we do not ever try to disrupt that. And I think that's refreshing for some of our clients because they've been through situations with other providers where they come in and say, this is our package. Here it is. Sign this, and this is what we're going to do for you. instead of becoming a partner with your client, you become a provider to the client. And we always want to be a partner to the client. Every year we have a holiday party. We call it our Christmas party, but we have it in January because the end of the year is just so hectic, both in our business and family life. You know, the time running up from Thanksgiving to Christmas is very hectic. And so we choose January, usually later in January when there's nothing going on and people are looking for an excuse to have a party. This year, I think the guest list was somewhere very close to 500. We invite clients, we invite service providers, we invite friends, and every year it just gets larger and larger. And we're going to be hard-pressed to find a venue for the party going forward because I think we've kind of maxed out the capacity at the concourse downstairs. But I mean, that's a testament to what we do, that our customers, our clients really are our friends. And one of the things that we have done since day one, and it sounds like a cliche, but for us it really isn't, we treat your freight like it's our own, and we treat your money like it's ours. And we truly mean that. If someone calls us at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon and they have a problem and they need a truck, we don't say, well, I'll get to it Monday. We get on the phone and we find somebody who can serve that need. We always think of ourselves as, what if this were our company? What if this were our freight? The same way with the money. There are a lot of options in transportation. Some of them are more expensive than others. We try to listen to the customer and determine what is most important. Sometimes cost is not a factor. We have done, and this is a little bit off topic, but we have done hand carries where we put a person on a plane to take a parcel to a customer, and that's the fastest way we know how to do it. I think it was 2 years ago, there was a BMW plant in Mexico. The assembly line was shut down for want of one small part. It was costing them hundreds of thousands of dollars an hour. Now, in that case, you don't go searching around for how can I get the best ticket from here to Monterey. You just book the next flight out, you go, and the customer is happy to pay it because in that case, money is not the object. The object is to get that line moving again. But even at that, we do seek out options and we make sure that we're not choosing the highest price option, even in an emergency situation. And because we have so much experience in that, we already know who we can call, who will be reasonable, who will be reliable, and who will get the job done for us.
Is there anything else you'd like to say as to some of the complex needs of your clients and how you make sure their needs are met?
We always say that there are no 2 days alike in this business, and that is really due to the vast differences between our clients and their needs. We have clients in aerospace, apparel, medical equipment, mining, automotive, wind energy, telecommunications, and they all have various needs, and their needs change. And so we have to be constantly up on the latest in our industry. Steamship lines go out of business or merge, or there are new lines added. Same with trucking companies, same with airlines. And so we have to be aware of the changes in the logistics landscape, changes in rates. The market is very much driven by supply and demand. The peak seasons are much more expensive and capacity is much more difficult to find during the peak seasons. So I think we have a lot of different needs that we need to fulfill, but that goes back to the question of being flexible. We've done some amazing things. We've moved locomotives to Indonesia. We have built roads to accommodate oversized loads. We've moved solar panels, windmills, generators, turbines. We've done quality inspections on parts that we've imported into the U.S. from producers that are offshore, so that their customers don't have to return the goods to them for repair. We've actually done repair work on imported goods in order for the goods not to have to be sent back to the manufacturer. We've chartered cargo aircraft all over the world for time-critical shipments. Really, we do whatever it takes. And the 4PL customers, I think, are our biggest challenge because in the case of 4PL, we're not just offering a truckload shipment from here to there or an air freight shipment or parcel shipment from there to here. With 4PL, it really is a cradle-to-grave solution. And so we have to look at absolutely everything that that customer is doing along the supply chain and make recommendations for change, keep the things that are working, look for alternatives to the things that aren't. And for me, I think that's one of the most rewarding things, is to be able to serve a customer to that extent that they don't have to do anything if they don't want to, that it can be completely hands-off. They can turn it over to us and know that it is being managed the way they would want it to be.
Is there anything you'd like to add about the relationship with Google, knowing that you're going to be working with them long term?
Well, it makes us very happy because obviously Google is a household name, and it makes us believe that anything is possible. Not that we don't already, but to have the big names like GE, like Google, like WeWork, makes us much more confident in our abilities. And when I go and make sales calls on a prospect, I came out of the operations in this business, so I know what's possible and what is not possible. I think a lot of times salespeople will just say yes for the sake of getting the sale, and we don't do that. If somebody asks for something to be delivered yesterday, I'm very upfront in saying, can't do it. But because we've come out of the operations, we know what we're talking about. And I think, again, getting back to confidence in our abilities, I think that having big clients like this makes you really feel that the sky is the limit for us. And I think that coming from what was a small company in a smaller city makes me very proud.
Can you talk a little about e-commerce, how that's changed things, and how you accommodate this for your clients?
E-commerce has created a very big need for what we call pick, pack, and ship operations. Individual small retailers need space to store their products and help with getting their orders out to their customers. Now, Logistics Plus has always provided warehousing, but this service is a good example of LP evolving to meet our clients' needs. We now provide this pick, pack, and ship service from several of our own warehouses. And last year we were designated an Amazon preferred logistics provider, which put us on lists that they send to potential retailers. So we have gotten a lot of interest from Amazon retailers in particular to serve their pick, pack, and ship operations. And so that part of the business is growing fairly rapidly for us.
Capacity seems to be a hot topic in the industry right now, both globally and domestically. Can you talk about how capacity constraints are impacting LP and your clients?
Capacity is always an issue in logistics, whether it's short-term due to holidays like Christmas and Chinese New Year, or long-term, maybe not enough vessels to serve a particular route, or the growing Asia outbound trade. Those are a little bit longer-term problems. But we try to do our best to anticipate problems and find solutions. Maybe it's alternate routings away from major ports like New York and Long Beach to smaller, less congested ports like Norfolk or Seattle. Maybe it's working with our clients to adjust lead times so they can get their goods in advance of peak season, working with them on not only their lead times, but availability of product, single sourcing versus multiple sources. That's a big one. If you have several alternatives for purchasing the same product, you want to try to buy from the one that's closer to you if your lead time is less. I think it's our attention to detail and our concern for each customer that sets us apart from the other providers in this industry. Having said that, we work around as many issues as we can. Some things are not preventable. During the hurricane season, we had a lot of issues with roads that were closed, trucking terminals that were not operational, areas that were just completely inaccessible. And some of those things are obviously acts of God. You can't help them, but you can work around them. And so we try to find warehouses that are outside of the affected area, hold things for a short period of time until things settle down, and then deliver the freight. So there's always creative solutions that we can come up with to get the job done for the customer.
Is there anything you want to comment on about the technology overall changing how LP and its clients work together?
When we first started out, we used QuickBooks and Excel for everything. That's probably an exaggeration, but it was pretty primitive. But in time, we purchased some software to support our operations. But in the last 10 years or so, we've been working with one of the premier software designers in the industry to develop our own in-house software. So many of our existing offerings to our clients are home-based. Our IT team has increased exponentially over the last 10 years, and we actually have our own mobile app. In this day and age, everybody wants real-time instant information. And they can go onto our mobile app, and if they know their container number, which they would because we would tell them in advance when we do the booking, they can plug in that container number and they will get a graphic of a dot in the ocean where that container is at this very moment. When I saw it for the first time, I was blown away. But we've had to keep up with the technology, and we've had to keep up with the client's increasing need for instant gratification. And that's been a challenge, but I think we've met it and exceeded it, because we take our systems and let's say it's a larger client. They may have their own transportation management system. They may have their own data sources. We can merge the two so that they can use their system in conjunction with ours and get the results that they want.
LP is today a great Erie employer. What can you share about your experience at LP?
Well, as I mentioned, I have been with LP since 1997. I was actually employee number 6. I now have well over 500 teammates spread all over the world, and helping to develop this business has been one of the greatest experiences of my life. It's given me the opportunity to travel all over the U.S., all over the world. I've been a part of the evolution of LP from our start inside GE Transportation to a trailer in the yard of one of our local trucking partners, to temporary space down in the Boston store for a couple years while we were building out this space, and then eventually to our current home in Union Station, which we've been in since, I believe it was 2005. And Union Station just celebrated her 90th anniversary this past December. So it's wonderful to be in a landmark building like this, which is a transportation building in and of itself. That's always been something very nice. And we feel really lucky to provide internships to students from all over the area. We probably have well over 100 employees here in Union Station, all of whom are local or area residents. So it's been wonderful being a part of the growth of our little corner of downtown Erie. Our goal has always been, as Jim would say, world domination, at least in our industry. And, we joke about that, but really, our passion for excellence has taken us this far, and as long as we keep that uppermost in our activities, I don't see any reason why we won't continue to prosper here and throughout the world.
Thanks for listening to Business Spotlight on Money Radio WPSE. Business Spotlight is heard every Friday at noon. Join us next week as Roland Financial Wealth Management is in the Business Spotlight.